Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto got harem with Mito, Kushina, Sora, and Asami part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto Uzumaki was having a horrible 25th birthday. Not only had his plan to take over the ninja world and bring peace just fail, but his supposed best friend turned on him at the last second. After all that planning and training, I'm still nothing without the Kyuubi. That wasn't true, of course. He was by far the most powerful ninja alive. He thought back to how he defeated Madara Uchiha and Sasuke. He just reversed the ceiling on the Statue of Hell, and boom, all the tailed beast ran around killing people, and when I say all the tailed beasts, I mean all. So in the end Naruto did lose the fox, but what the hell? He was considered the strongest ninja in the world. But one thing he overlooked was that his body was no longer immune to poison. That was his one mistake, well, unless you count him trusting the people closest to him as one. Which he now did. His wife Hinata was not the one that really killed him. She poured the drink, but Sakura was the one that made the poison. The thing that really pissed him off was the fact that Hinata was under some sort of mind control. She had some distant look in her beautiful lavender eyes. Like she wasn't really there. Then it struck him. Sakura was a master of genjutsu, and she had always held a grudge against him for killing Sasuke, and now she found a way to get back at him. He, the man that almost brought about peace. Sure, there were wars, but in the big picture a few lives for almost 1 billion was a rather good price. You have any cough idea why you've done? He might as well ask her, just so she was sure that she knew what she was doing. She narrowed her eye at him. Of course I do. I'm avenging my Sasuke-kun. Don't worry, your whore will join you soon. She was then about to kill Hinata with a very powerful kick when she found she couldn't move. Shikamaru. She saw him in the reflection in the golden mirror that covered one of the walls of Naruto and Hinata's bedroom. Sorry we didn't get here in time, Naruto. Choji, take care of her. Shikamaru got a nod from his friend as he used his clan's jutsu to make his hand grow to the size of a person and grabbed hold of Sakura and took her out of the room. There was going to be a public execution later and they would need her for the chopping block. Tsunade came running into the room. Oh no, she then went over to check Naruto and Hinata. Is Hinata going to be okay? Naruto was going pale and his vision was fading. Lady Tsunade didn't have the heart to tell him that Hinata had also been poisoned and she wasn't in much better shape than him. She'll be fine, but you. I'm sorry Naruto, but she was interrupted by Naruto. So she's dying too, huh? That sucks. He could feel her life force fading and he knew that he didn't have much time. Please Tsunade, don't let my dream die. I know about your deal with the Shinigami. I know it's a lot to ask, but he was interrupted by a massive hug from Tsunade. Of course I won't let it die, she said through tears. Thank you, Mom, and with that the most powerful ninja died. Naruto was standing in front of Hinata in an unending black ocean. Naruto-kun, I'm so sorry, I didn't know what. She found herself unable to talk as Naruto had closed the gap between them and covered her mouth with his. After a little while they gently pulled apart. I know Harem, he said with a smile on his face. Hinata just then noticed that they were standing on seemingly nothing. Where are we? She asked, looking around fearful that this was what the end looked like. Just never-ending blackness. The fact that Naruto was here made things much more bearable, but still. You are here at my request. They both turned to see who the voice belonged to. You're the Shinigami. I saw Cyclops Tem use you to seal Kabuto, but what are you doing here? Naruto didn't like Kakashi as much as people thought he did. I don't like Kakashi. I'm here to give you another chance. You made watching your world fun for some time, and by the looks of it you would have for some time to come, but then that wench poisoned you. I have to say that was a twist, but now you're dead and life is getting interesting again. He then looked at him for some time. So are you going to agree to live again or what? Both Naruto and Hinata looked at each other. But what about Hinata-chan? Sigh. Look, the only way for you to live again is if I send you to another dimension. And you no way. It's cause there is a body that would fit you perfectly that needs a soul. Naruto and Hinata looked lost. Look, you know when your first memoir was? Yeah, I was like 3 or 4. What does that? That was when you finally got a soul. You see, energy can't be destroyed, just redirected, and souls are just energy. Get it? I need your soul with or without your memories. Right now some 3-year-old is just on autopilot. I'm giving you a chance to start a new life. Yes or no? It's okay, Naruto-kun. You deserve a second chance, Hinata said, holding his hand. After a long kiss, he and Hinata broke apart. Okay. Shinigami-sama, take me to my body. The death god smiled and then snapped his fingers. And you'll be in a different dimension so things won't get old. Then the blackness overtook him as he was flung across the timelines of different emotions. Then he fell into one. Naruto went into the body of a young Lars Namikaze, the youngest of Minato and Kushina's 5 kids. Minato and Kushina had Naruto when they were just 16. With some different, Naruto is the oldest at 10. Looks the same as the canon one. The second oldest, Sora, at 8. Looks the same as Kushina, only spiky hair. The third, Mito, at 5. The carbon copy of Kushina. Mito's twin sister, Asami. A blonde little Kushina with blue eyes. Naruto. And little Lars at 3. He looked like Minato, only with straight hair. I'll see you again, Hinata-chan. I promise, Naruto said, as if they still could communicate, if only for a little bit. With that, he had moved into Lars's body. He would have to start from scratch, and he didn't have the Kyuubi to heal him, and he would have normal chakra for some time. Kushina had just woken up to find her youngest standing next to her bed. She looked over to the clock. 1:34 a.m. What's wrong, Lars-kun? She asked, sitting up. I had a nightmare. Can I sleep with you guys tonight? Lars hadn't had a nightmare, but as the Naruto in his dimension, he never got to know his mother or got to spend time with her, and he wasn't about to let this chance slip through his fingers. She smiled, moved to the side and lifted up the blanket and patted the now open spot. Wasting no time, Lars laid down right next to her. It didn't take long for him to fall asleep, seeing as he now has the body of a 3-year-old. He found that he got tired very fast. Then again he did just wake up. Kushina just had to wake up Minato to show him how cute the scene was. Oh look, Minato. He looked over with half-lidded eyes to see Lars curled up right against Kushina's midsection. Now this was a normal sight, and after having kids for 10 years they slept in the same bed lots of times, but it was the fact that Lars had found his way into Kushina's very long red hair that was so adorable. Minato let out a small chuckle. Morning. Lars had woken to find that he was now seated on the lap of his father and was at the dining table. Morning, Lars. Lars looked to find that Jiraiya was the one talking to him. Gurren FMM, was Lars's response. If he got one thing from his old life, it was the fact that he was not a morning person. Okay. So Minato, they started some conversation about seals that Lars didn't care about. He didn't even want to be awake. He jumped off his father's lap and went to look for bedroom he had woken up in last night. Minato and Jiraiya were so caught up in what they were talking about that they didn't even notice that Lars had left. As Lars went down the hallway, he couldn't help but wonder about his other family. After all, he was an orphan for, well, his whole life. He turned to the closest door and opened it. It turned out to be Sora's room. She was sitting up in her bed when she saw her little brother standing in her doorway. Lars, come here, she then waved her hand in a, come here, motion, and Lars followed. Just like before with Kushina, he climbed into bed and fell to sleep right up next to her. 5 minutes later. Wake up. Lars and Sora jumped out of bed at the loud and sudden noise. Naruto, what do you want at this hour? Sora asked as she got up from the mess of blankets. Mom said to wake everyone up, and that's what I'm doing, he said, crossing his arms. Later that day, Lars and Kushina were walking to the market when something caught his attention. A red sleeve and long black hair. Kurenai, he thought as he was looking to the women with her back turned to him. Lars-kun, he turned at hearing his name. He didn't expect to see Anko. Of all people to know him, he just didn't expect for it to be her. She still looked the same, only shorter. Anko, he asked just to make sure. See Kushina-sensei, I told you he'd remember me. And he was just 2 then. Haha, take that Kurenai. Anko did a little victory dance. Kushina put Lars down so he could go up to see Anko. Even though he had no real interest in seeing her. He needed to find Kurenai to find Hinata. Speaking of Kurenai, she just happened to walk up right next to Anko. It sounded like he was questioning who you were, she said without a single emotion in her voice. Kurenai-chan. Lars ran over to her and hugged her legs. She had saved his life a few times during the Fourth War and she was the closest thing he had to a sister back then. Anko cried anime tears. Hello Lars-kun, she said with a smile. If there was one thing that was good about being little and adorable, it was that no matter what, people thought you were the cutest thing alive. Like right now. If Lars had been a teen and just ran up and hugged her, she would have kicked him right in the junk, but he's just a little tot right now so he can do pretty much whatever he wants. Mom, can Kurenai-chan come shopping with us? And so his plan started to unfold. He would get to meet Hinata if he just stayed around Kurenai long enough. Sorry Lars-kun, but I have to go and train my team, she patted him on the head. Team? But Hinata would only be 10. So why does she have a team already? Lars just had to find out. Can I watch you guys train? He was going to meet Hinata no matter what. Kushina-sensei, would you mind if Lars watches our training? Not at all. If Lars is with you then I know he's safe. Could you just watch him until 2? After they agreed, Lars went off with Kurenai to the training fields. Training Field 8. After meeting the team, Lars found out something that he didn't take into account. Hinata loves Naruto, and he wasn't Naruto here. The saddest part was that Naruto loved some Uchiha girl. Lars had even tried talking to her but she didn't even seem like she even liked being around him. Well fuck, she'll probably just get married to some other Hyuga. Lars had to rethink his life. At least there was some good news this day. He found out that the Third Ninja War didn't even end, so graduation was at 10, and that Minato had yet to make the Rasengan. Minato had instead chose to confess his feeling for Kushina and pursue a relationship, but he was still the Yondaime with the Flying Thunder God technique. At least I can make the Rasengan. At home. As soon as Kurenai dropped Lars off, he was met by his oldest sister at the doorway. Lars had been looking sad all the way through training. When asked, he just said his stomach hurt, but that was not the reason for his sudden change of heart. There was no chance of him being with Hinata, but maybe that was a good thing. He didn't want to just redo his whole life. You're sad Lars, and don't pull that, my tummy, stuff. I know you too well. Sora crossed her arms. For being 8 she was rather mature. Why is Naruto ni-san so stupid? He goes and chases after some Uchiha girl when Hinata is right there. It just seems stupid. At least that's what Lars wanted to say, but if a 3-year-old went and asked out why not love so and so, people might get suspicious. So he would need to make her drop it, and he knew just what to do. Why does daddy touch mommy in her no place? Poor Sora didn't know what she was in for. She seemed to get rather uncomfortable by this. Lars, have you been spying on people? She yelled as she finally regained her train of thought. No, they were in the kitchen, but why would I have to spy on people to see them do that? He was going to make her regret ever asking him anything today. Sora spent the next 2 hours trying to explain love to Lars and get him to stop asking her such unbecoming questions. Finally Minato and Kushina along with the rest of the family got home. Then Lars went and asked her something that would make her leave him alone for certain. So if I touch your no place, that's love? Lars asked, looking genuinely confused. Minato, Kushina, Jiraiya, and Tsunade laughed their asses off. Naruto chuckled. Mito and Asami looked confused. And Sora blushed and began hitting him on the head with a rolled up newspaper. Mom, Lars keeps asking me nasty questions, she said as she kept smacking Lars on the head as he tried to run away. 4 years pass. Lars had been walking back home from the academy. He was also by far much more talented than the others in his class, and by next year he would be taking the Genin exams. Yup, things were finally looking up for the hero of this story. In a dark alley across from Lars. Is that him? One undercover Iowa Chunin asked his Jonin leader. You have no idea how hard it was to get into Konoha. The place was a fortress, and the fact that they got this close to the Hokage's son was only a testament to their stealth skills. Yeah, that's him, he said, looking at a picture of the Yondaime Hokage's youngest son. They already called him a prodigy in the ninja arts. Now that was problem for Iowa, so they were going to get rid of said problem. Back with Lars. Someone's following me. 2 ninja, one of Jonin chakra and one of Chunin chakra. Good thing I'm a chakra sensor here, or I would have missed them. Lars smiled as he turned the corner that led to a training ground. He had been trying to remake the Rasengan and all he needed was a human test dummy. Let's see just how much I've grown. As he entered the training ground, he dropped his book bag and went to the middle of the stony field. The Anbu will notice I haven't took the normal way home. That leaves me about 3 minutes before they get here. Just enough time to test out my new jutsus. Lars cracked his knuckles. He turned to the 2 chakras that were hiding in the woods. They showed no sign of coming out. So you just going to sit in that tree, huh? Well, too bad for you, I'm a chakra sensor. Lars then went through 3 hand seals. Dragon tiger hair. Water release violent water wave. He took a deep breath, then exhaled. A massive amount of water shot out of his mouth and smashed right into the tree they were hiding in, effectively knocking them out of it. Water now covered the field. So Iowa ninjas, huh? Then again, who else would be stupid enough to attack me? He crossed his arms. Kid, do you really think you stand a chance against a Jonin and a Chunin? The tallest member of the 2-man unit said as he stood up. Lars smiled and jumped onto a large rock that was near the middle of the field. He then brought his hand into the snake hand seal. Lightning release false darkness. A bolt of lightning shot out of Lars's mouth and struck the water. The Jonin was able to jump out of the water in time. The Chunin, on the other hand, was fried to a crisp. Lars fell to a knee, gasping for air. Wow, that took way too much out of me. If I'm gonna use the Rasengan, I can't miss. Lars stood up in the now covered in steam training ground. The steam was not enough to hide in, but it did make everything a little hazy. AC rank water and B rank lighting ninjutsu form a 7-year-old kid. I have to say I'm impressed, but you're almost out of chakra. To think that one day you would be a major threat to Iowa. It's a good thing you're going to die here. The Jonin then shunshined right in front of Lars and brought his kunai down, cutting through Lars's left frontal sinus cavity. Ouch. But it was a bad choice on the Jonin's part, as he was no in range. Rasengan. Lars had the Rasengan in hand, pushed it right into the Iowa ninja's stomach, sending him flying into the wall of the cliff that overlooked the training ground, knocking him out but not killing him. Just then a squad of 10 Anbu jumped down into the field. They looked at the sight in front of them with disbelief. Namikaze-sama, are you alright? One of the Anbu was by Lars's side in a matter of seconds. At seeing the deep gash, she activated a healing jutsu and started to heal his forehead. Just then Minato and Jiraiya shunshined into the field. Lars. Minato ran over to his son. Lars then collapsed from chakra exhaustion, pain in the head. Hospital. Lars woke up to find he had a bandage over his left eye and right hand. So, the Rasengan is too much for me right now. He then noticed that there was someone laying on his bed, or someone's. He sat up, then looked down, and saw a redhead and a blonde. Asami and Mito. What are they doing here? He was never really close to them, but then again he didn't really talk to anyone. Lars, you're awake. He looked up to see his now 14-year-old brother Naruto, and Masuri Uchiha walk into the room. He was holding a white box. I got you some Ichiraku. he said with a stupid smile on his face. Thanks, Lars said while giving Missouri the evil eye. He had gotten over the fact that he would never be with Hinata, but why did his brother have to go after an Uchiha? Sasuke's cousin, and probably the nicest Uchiha, which meant she was up to no good. Mito and Asami woke up at the loud volume that Naruto was talking. They looked surprised. Lars, they said at the same time as they tackled him back onto the hospital bed. Ow. My body. Just as everyone in the room finally got seated and Anbu appeared. Lars-sama, the council would like to see you. Then Anbu disappeared and left the 5 people alone. Lars, did you hear him say when they would like to see you? Naruto said, raising his eyebrows a few times. Why no, dearest brother? I didn't, Lars said as he laid back down with Mito and Asami on either side of him. The Anbu popped back in. They meant right now. He then jumped out of the window. Damn it. Lars got out of bed and with his sisters, brother and brother's girlfriend they left to the council meeting chamber. Later at council meeting, Lars sat down in a chair in the meeting room by himself, seeing as Mito, Asami, Naruto and Missouri had to wait outside the room. Dad, why did you need to see me? When he was in trouble he always called him Dad. Never Hokage-sama. Try to keep the, I'm your blood, thing going, it almost never worked. Lars-kun, the council and I would like to know just how you managed to kill a Chunin and incapacitate a Jonin. I hope you understand that you're not in trouble. I would just like to know what was this, Rasengan, you used, and how you learned AC rank water technique and AB rank lightning one. Lars shuffled his feet and looked away. Can I pass to the next question? Lars Kakuzu Namikaze. You will tell you father how you learned 2 high-rank techniques and just what you used on the Iwa Jonin. Kushina yelled as she was sitting next to Minato. Wow, she's scary. Wait, did she just say? My middle name is Kakuzu. How did he miss that? Don't change the subject. Well, the lightning one I learned from your scroll dad, and the water scroll was yours mom. It was just sitting on the table, so I thought they were there for anyone. The other jutsu, the Rasengan, is one that I made, he said, like making an A- ranked jutsu was a everyday thing. I see. Minato looked to some of the clan heads and got a nod from them. Lars-kun, thank you for answering the questions, and next week you will be taking the Genin exam with your sisters. You are dismissed, Minato said with a smile. Lars was surprised by this. He had thought that they would demand for him to explain the workings of the Rasengan, not let him take the exam for doing it. Thank you Hokage-sama, Lars bowed and left. Outside the meeting room, Lars, how'd it go? Sora asked as she had joined the rest of her family waiting for him. They want me to take the Genin exams next week. Mito and Asami jumped for joy at hearing that their favorite brother was taking the exams with them. Naruto's a distant second. The next few hours were spent with Lars being taken all over the village to celebrate. Back at home, the Namikaze family were sitting at the dinner table enjoying some of Kushina's cooking. Lars just couldn't take it anymore. Is anyone going to ask me about the Rasengan or not? He worked hard to remake it and was a little disappointed that no one seemed impressed. Minato laughed at that. Lars-kun, I made the Flying Thunder God technique when I was 15, and to this day I haven't told anyone how it works. Not even Kushina or Jiraiya knows. The point is that you made a powerful technique and it's your to do with as you please. Minato then stuffed some rice into his mouth. Lars pouted, then turned to eat as well. Mito was feeding him as he was a righty and could use chopsticks with his left hand. That ended the conversation for that night. 2:45 a.m. Lars woke up to the pain of laying on the wrong side again. Stupid head and arm wounds. He then heard the door open. Lars, you awake? The voice of Sora. Yeah, Lars said, sitting up. She ran over to the bed and hugged Lars. Don't die. Okay. He felt his shoulders start to get wet. She's crying. Lars didn't know what to make of the situation. So he just hugged her back. Like someone could kill me. Lars had been trying to think of a way to mix up his life a little. He didn't want to do the same thing over, so bringing peace was out of the question. The Genin exam is tomorrow. I could always become Hokage. No, I did that already. How about I make some ultimate jutsu that was in my world but not here? Now to just pick one. He thought of all the fights he was ever in. Well, only the ones without a Kekkei Genkai. Of all the ones he was in, there was only one that caught his eye. His fight with Kakuzu. For reasons unknown to him, his middle name here was Kakuzu. The man was almost immortal and could use all 5 chakras. I really need to find out why that's my middle name. Then it clicked. That's what the Shinigami wants me to do. He jumped out of his bed, then went over to his desk and pulled out a piece of paper. I may not know how he did it, but I know enough about it to recreate it, or make it better. He started writing down ideas. Yes. He wrote a little. Yes. He sped up his writing. That makes perfect sense. He had pulled out more sheets of paper and was filling them with ideas of how the technique worked. Outside Lars's room, Kushina was walking by Lars's room and heard her son mumbling to himself. Just when she was about to go and see what was bothering him, Lars shot out of his bed and ran over to his desk. And she heard him say, "Yes." He wrote a little. Yes. He sped up his writing. That makes perfect sense. He had pulled out more sheets of paper and was writing on them as well. Kushina was a little shocked. She never seen any of his kids act this way. She heard Lars stop writing and speak some more. And just connect them here and here. That's it. This could work. Lars jumped up. It could work. Now Kushina just had to ask. What would work, sweetie? She had opened the door and was leaning on the doorway. Lars's eyes went wide. Nothing, Mom. Just, stuff and whatnot, Lars said, covering the papers on his desk. If she saw that he was writing up ideas on how to control threads to rip people's hearts and other organs out and put them in his own body just to live longer, there was no telling what she would do. Kushina looked at him worriedly. Is there something you need to talk about, Lars-kun? She walked over to him, kneeling down to bring herself to his closer level. No. He was looking down. He didn't want his mother to think he was some sort of monster, and if she saw this, then she most likely would. Once again Kushina looked worried. It's okay, Lars-kun, you can tell me what's wrong. She then bent down even further and hugged him. He just couldn't take it. He told her about the technique he was thinking of, and surprisingly, she was amazed by what he had come up with. My little genius. She hugged him even harder. Thanks, Mom, he said, returning the hug. She then pulled away and stopped with one hand on each of Lars's shoulders. She smiled at him. Not a normal motherly smile, but a way to loving for a mother to have smile. Causing little Lars to blush. But you might not want to tell your father. I don't think he would like the idea very much, she said with what he was pretty sure was a growl at the end. A lustful growl. Inside Kushina's seal. He will be very strong when he gets older. I wonder what he'll be like in bed in a few years. The feminine voice of the Kyuubi rang out in her mind. Not even Minato knows this, but Kushina and the Kyuubi had come to an understanding, and after that they became friends. The Kyuubi still liked to mess with Kushina. After all, old habits die hard. So the great demon fox sent some rather images into her mind. Images of a teenaged Lars. Outside of the seal, she eyes changed red for the slightest of seconds, so fast that Lars didn't even catch it. She then bent down and kissed her son's small mouth. Her tongue lightly running across his lips as she did. Lars was surprised by this. His body may be 7, but his mind was a lot older. So he couldn't help himself from returning the kiss. By that I mean he leaned forward, no tongue. Of course this surprised Kushina. She didn't expect him to do anything but stand there, but then again he always found a way to surprise her. She then pulled away, and looked at him with another one of those smiles that made him blush. I'm gonna go make dinner. After recovering from shock, Lars then spent the hour making a sealing scroll that only he could open. He then put all his ideas in order and sealed them. Lars' dinner. He heard his sister calling him. At the dinner table, Naruto had been wondering what his little brother was yelling about earlier, so he decided to ask. Hey little bro, I heard you saying something about something working a bit ago. So, what's working? Lars mentally slapped himself. Of course he heard him. Naruto's room was right next to his. Not only that, but apparently they were having company over. The three Sannin, the Inuzuka, Akamichi, Nara, Yamanaka, Uchiha and Aburame clan heads and their wives were here. Minato was curious. What technique? I was just thinking of a way to improve the Rasengan, and I think I know how. Lars didn't want anyone else, not including Kushina, to know about the new Earth Grudge Fear, so the only thing he could think of was the wind release Rasen Shuriken. This got Naruto's attention. He had seen his little brother use the technique once before, and was amazed at what he had come up with. Apparently other people at the table had the same train of thought. Soom was the first person to ask. The technique is only a day old and you're already thinking of a way to improve it. Yeah, I was thinking of adding a chakra element to it. Lars had a sheepish smile. Orochimaru looked surprised. That technique was quite a feat for someone to make in the first place, and now you're going to improve it even more. That little Lars-kun is very impressive. Minato just looked proud at his son's ability to make jutsu. That wonderful Lars-kun. You're just like you siblings, powerful and kind. A good combination, Makoto Uchiha added. Orochimaru seemed more interested in the technique than Lars's personality. And how are you going to improve such a thing? I was thinking of adding wind chakra and making it a projectile. Everyone in the room thought of the effect of such a jutsu. That would be most interesting thing to see, Fugaku Uchiha added with a thoughtful look. After the thought of the wind projectile Rasengan, the rest of the dinner went on without much talk. 12 a.m. Minato had been having trouble sleeping. He took a sleeping pill to help. It dropped him like a sack of potatoes. Kushina smiled at this and left the bedroom and headed for Lars's room. 3 a.m. Lars woke up to find a weight on him, so he looked, but instead of finding Mito and Asami he found Kushina. Not only that, but he moved a little to see who it was and found that he wasn't wearing any clothes. First the kiss and now my clothes. Then realization dawned on him. Single quote. I'm okay with this, he thought as he decided to go with the flow and snuggled into Kushina's body. Warm. He smiled at just how warm Kushina's body was. Wait. He looked under the blanket and see that she was indeed still fine with this. He then looked at her sleeping face. With the sun showing through the window, a beam of light was right behind her head, making it seem as though her hair was glowing. Wow, she's beautiful. He never really noticed, but now that he took the time to really look, he found that he had never seen someone so amazingly beautiful. He just looked at her for the next 3 hours until she woke up. She smiled at him. Morning, Lars-kun. His response was to smile back at her. After that she decided it was time to get ready for the day. Her getting out of bed caused 3 things to happen. 1. Lars fainted from blood loss. 2. Kushina blushed at her son's reaction. The Kyuubi laughed. Well, that's one way to react, and he's 7, he is going to be fun in a few years. At the academy, Lars had been sitting in the middle of the classroom with one of his sisters on either side, waiting for the test to start. You nervous? Mito asked. Lars smiled. Not in the least. Alright class, today we will be having the Genin exam. We are going to see if you are able to become a ninja. The first part of the test is written, they will be passed out and you have 30 minutes to finish it. 30 minutes passed and the Namikaze children finished with 20 minutes to spare. Alright, the next test is the transformation. I will call you one at a time to come up to the front of the class and transform into whatever I say. The first name, A. Asin. Everyone passed. And now the last part. You will perform a C rank or higher ninjutsu. If you don't know any, then you will be given a different teat later today. We will be going outside for this. Outside. Let's start. Some more time passed. Asami. Here goes nothing. She went through some hand seals. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger. Fire release flame bullet. The target caught on fire then burned away to ashes form the torrent of fire that came out of Asami's mouth. The Jonin tester wrote something down. Namikaze Asami. Passed C rank fire jutsu. Good you pass, here is your headband. N. Lars. Lars got up and went to the testing field. Tiger dragon bird. Lightning release roaring lion. Lars held his hand palm out to the target. Blue lightning crackled off his arm then shot in a perfect beam that cut right thought not only the target but the trees behind it too. 10 deep, and it was accompanied by the sound of a lion roaring. You pass, here's your headband. The Jonin tester wrote something down again. Namikaze Lars. Passed B rank lightning jutsu. N. Mito. She walked out to the field and took a stance. She clapped her hands together then pointed them palm out at the target. Wind release violent wind palm, the target was sent flying. The Jonin nodded. You pass, here's your headband. He put her info down on the clipboard. Namikaze Mito. Passed C rank wind jutsu. After the end of the test. Now for team assignments. Team 1. Sigh, if I could just skip this to Maite. Namikaze Lars, Mito, and Asami. Well that was convenient. Your Jonin sensei will chose Akamichi. And Akamichi? Oh right there's a war so Kakashi Tem will be fighting in it. A large man with red hair walked in. Team 1. Lars and his sisters nod. All right let's go. He turned and left the room. The three of them got up and followed the large man to Training Ground 99. Training Ground 99 aka nothing interesting about this training ground. The training ground was a rather boring sight. It had trees to the left and back, a wall of rocks to the right and a lake in the back. Choza sat down in front of the lake. The three siblings followed. Alright everyone, my name is Choza, and today I will be testing your strength, start. With that his hand grew to the size of a small house. The three's eyes widened, then two of them jumped out of the way. His hand hit where Lars would have been sitting, and with Mito still sitting she was thrown into the air toward the forest. My he's strong, Mito commented with a bored tone as she went sailing through the air. Right before she hit the ground she disappeared from sight, in a yellow flash. She knows the Horizon. Choza was distracted long enough for Lars to run up right in front of him and deliver a chakra-enhanced elbow to the chin, sending him flying into the lake. Good thing Tsunade taught me her super strength. Lars smiled at how powerful the blow was. The water grew still. His smile got bigger. Water release water wolf head technique. A massive wolf head made out of water came out of the lake. Lars's smile went away at hearing the name. The head was made out of all the water in the lake and there was nowhere to run. This is gonna hurt. Wait, Asami jumped in front go Lars. Tiger snake rat snake tiger. Water release water wall. She may not have waster around her but she sure as hell could take it out of the air. I'll need to thank mom for passing the high affinity for water to me. The great wolf head smashed into the wall. After the water settled 3 people stood across from each other. Then one person jumped down beside Lars and Asami. Taking water out of the air huh? You do take after you mother. Choza smiled at the skill the kid possessed. He continued, and Mito being able to use an S-rank time and space technique. And you Lars, that kind of strength at your age, you kids are really something. Choza got a thoughtful look. From what I've read they have good teamwork, that's good enough for me. Alright team, meet me tomorrow and we will start taking missions. You're all dismissed. With that Team 1 started their journey to greatness. 3 years have passed since Team Namikaze was made official. Things had once again started to look up for Lars as he finally had an assignment. They had to deliver an important scroll to the Fire Daimyo that contains reports about Kumo. It seemed that they would be going to war with not just Suna and Iwa but Kumo as well. But enough with the bad news for Lars had found out that not only that his mother liked him of his sisters as well, and they had very interesting ways of admitting it. First was Kushina, just a few days after becoming a genin. Kushina's confession, Lars age, 7. Lars and Kushina had just gotten into the door of their home after a day shopping for new ninja equipment. After they had put everything away in storage scrolls, she said something that made Lars blush. "It's hot out and you're all sweaty. Come on, let's go take a shower together," she said with a smile. Okay, he thought of protesting, then remembered that just a few days ago she kissed him and was sleeping into him. Master bathroom. Kushina had just taken all her clothing off and stepped into the shower. She looked over to her youngest with a questioning glance. "Are you coming in or just going to watch me?" Lars started blushing and fumbled over his words, trying to defend himself. Not stuttering, mind you, but he couldn't think of anything to say. In his defense, the first time he saw Kushina, he hadn't seen a woman in 7 years, and she was by far the most attractive one he had ever seen, but now he was sort of used to it, sort of. She got a laugh out of his response. "Then come here, silly." Lars dropped his towel, and seeing as it was one of the only for showering baths, he could just stepped into it. He reached for some soap, then he tensed as he felt a hand on his back. "Don't worry, Mommy's just gonna wash you back." He could practically hear the smile on her face as she talked. She sat down right behind him and pulled him onto her lap. He didn't say anything to stop her, so she went on. As she went on, he couldn't help but blush as his blood went to other places. It didn't help that he felt her whole body touching his. Kushina seemed to notice his frustration, and the blush on his face just made him so much more adorable. She just couldn't help but start kissing his neck. Lars let out a shallow gasp. "I love you, Lars-kun," she whispered into his ear, and continued kissing him. "I love you too," he said with a tone that made Kushina stop. He didn't mean it like, "Love ya mom," there was some emotion behind that. To think a 7-year-old gets the concept of love. Then again, he did come up with some really powerful techniques, and I know how much you're attracted to power, but that's not why you're doing it. Now is it? Well, yeah, of course I love him. I'd love him even if he didn't have chakra at all. You find that out just now. She and the Kyuubi may be friends, but that didn't mean she was going to treat her like a queen. Lars actually started to worry. Shit, did I say the wrong thing? His thoughts were put to rest when Kushina started to kiss his neck again, and once she started to nibble and suck on his neck, that he knew that he not only said the right thing but he said it at the right time. By the time Kushina and Lars had gotten out of the shower, Lars now had great number of hickeys on the back and sides of his neck, and even on his shoulders. Not only that, but unfortunately for Kushina, she herself was pent up. Then an idea came to her. "Hey sweetie, you want to help out your mommy with something very important?" Lars looked at her with the most innocent face he possible could. "Sure, mommy." She then picked him up with their towels still around them. His golden hair had stem coming off of it, as then went into the next room. She set him on the bed and he looked up at her with the most innocent smile he could muster. "Damn it, I can't do this to him, he's so innocent, sigh, plus I don't want to ruin anything that could happen." "Good choice. So mom, what did you need help with?" "Oh, sorry my little babe, but I just remembered I need to meet your father for lunch. But you can help me later, in a few years, that is." The end of that day left both Kushina and Lars feeling rather pent up, and as for Lars hiding the little love bits, well, no one really asked. They just assumed it was something else. Lars and Kushina would do this almost weekly. Every time Kushina getting closer and closer to undoing the towel when she would set Lars on her bed. The same thoughts always went through her head. "He's too young. And he'll hate you for it. Or don't ruin what you could have." In the end, Lars would just end up with little love marks all over his neck, and he even got to put some on Kushina, but in the end she decided it was best to wait for him to get older. After all, it's not like Minato was interested. He's 34 and we haven't had in almost 6 years. Kushina though angrily. End Kushina's confession. Not that Lars or Kushina minded that they didn't go all the way, they just enjoyed spending time with each other. Thinking of his mother made him think of the second member of his family to come out and say it. Sora, his older sister by 5 years. She was easygoing but a fierce friend and fighter. Not to mention she had what every Uzumaki had, a prankster side. He had once heard that she spray-painted the Hyuga secret training ground a bright pink with the words, "Not so great now." This train of thought brought him to when he first heard her tell him she truly loved him. Sora's confession, Lars age 9. Lars woke up at 5 a.m. to hear a rather strange noise coming from Sora's room. More specifically, he heard her saying his name, and with everyone else out on a mission or at the office, they were the only ones home. And out of concern for his sister, he went to check things out. Lars silently walked down the hallway to Sora's bedroom door. At first he thought of knocking. Instead he chose to listen to hear if anything was wrong. So he pressed his ear to the door. Inside Sora's room, Sora had woken up about an hour ago from a dream of Lars and her doing unmentionable things. For Cammy's sake, he's my brother and I'm thinking of him like this, she thought for the umpteenth time over the years. First he was so cute as a baby and now he's a hot preteen, then again I'm only 14, not that much older than him, maybe I should just drop a hint or two to let him know. She started to think about her and Lars. She was so caught up in her train of thought that she didn't even notice that her hand had started to move on its own. She twitched as her hand made contact with her wet entrance. Lars-kun, she wisped under her breath. She then started to play with her hot and moist opening. She inserted a finger, picturing her younger brother doing it. She continued and her voice started to get louder, and she started to lightly pant. She gasped as she rubbed against her favorite spot. Oh yes, right there Lars, she was starting to yell, but right now she didn't really care. She picked up the pace and felt her release coming soon. Back with Lars. His eyes widened as he finally heard what she was saying. Wow, she's thinking of me while she does this. He made his move, even if she would throw him out for doing this he had to try. He put his hand on the door knob and turned it. As soon as the door was open, Lars could see his sister's full body shaking as she finished pleasuring herself. She turned her head to the cooled breeze that came in. In her doorway stood Lars. A small smile started to form. She reached out her hand and, like all those years ago, Lars, come here, she then waved her hand in a come here motion and Lars followed. The scent coming off her hand showed Lars that it was the one she had been using, that it wet was a huge hint. Once he got to the bed, she repositioned herself to be sitting up facing Lars. Their eyes met. Sora just looked at him. Hi, Lars said nervously. Did I just say hi? Lars, if you ever tell anyone about this, I'll cut your balls off. Whatever Lars was expecting, it is not that. She may love him, but she wasn't about to go and give up her virginity to him walking in on her masturbating. He nodded a few times, then turned to leave, but was stopped by Sora's other hand on his shoulder. But now that you've seen me, you'll have to buy me dinner, she had a very serious expression. Once again all Lars could do was nod. After dinner at the ramen bar. After dinner Lars had found that his sister could eat just like him. By that he meant about 5,000 ryos worth of ramen. AD rank mission costs the same. Lars was walking with his sister on one of the lesser used roads of Konoha, and at 8 p.m. there was no one else out there but them. Suddenly Lars was pinned against the ground with Sora on top. She let it in very close and gave him the hardest kiss he had ever gotten. Once she pulled away, she whispered into his ear. I love you, you know that, right? Her face was now just an inch away from his. I love you too. He was cut off by her putting a kunai up against his lips. No, I mean I love you. She took the kunai away. Lars smiled. And I mean I love you. He then leaned up and kissed her. After that day Sora just seemed much more happier. End Sora's confession. Back to current time, Lars age 10. Now Lars just couldn't help but think about Mito and Asami. He knew they had feelings for him, but they never said it. Can't have anything, I guess, Lars thought sadly. He really loved everyone in his family. Not really Minato, cause he found his job much more important than spending time with his family. Naruto at least found time to spend at home, even with his friends and his girlfriend. But not everything was good as things with Kumo had started to heat up. With the kidnapping and death of Hinata Hyuga, it seemed that by the end of this week, there would be 4 great nations in the war. Lars was thinking on the way home to the Hidden Leaf. Man, now I'm gonna have to kill Killer B, that sucks. A few days later in Lars's bedroom, Lars sat on his bed as he asked Kushina if he could get something very special. Kushina had to admit that what Lars was saying was a little confusing, and made her uncomfortable. So, you want me to give you some of the Kyuubi's chakra so you can heal faster? That didn't really make much sense seeing as the Kyuubi's chakra was dangerous to anyone but her. Yes and no, the technique will replace most of my insides and I don't want to be all ragdoll looking, so I'll need to be able to heal really fast so I can make it perfect, Lars said, trying to get his mother to agree to giving him one of the most dangerous substances in the world. After you show me that it works on something living, then maybe, Kushina said in a matter-of-fact tone. Lars jumped up and down with joy. He knew that it would work, and when she said maybe, she meant, I've already thought about it and, okay. Thank you, Mom. Lars then kissed her. Kushina was surprised by this, but returned it anyway. Just as the two pulled away, they headed. Minato opened the front door. Lars and Kushina walked downstairs. Minato didn't look too happy. He took a seat at the kitchen table. Hey Dad, what's up? Minato let out a sigh. Nothing good, little buddy, nothing good. Kushina put 2 and 2 together. So we're at war with Kumo? She asked, taking the seat opposite of Minato. All he could do was nod. Minato had called a council meeting, and after reviewing the facts they were left with no choice. Kumo had kidnapped a ninja of Konoha, and that ninja just happened to be a Hyuga. They only had one option. Konoha declared war against Kumo. A week later, 5 people stood in Minato's office waiting for his orders. They were all of Jonin level, even if some were still of Chunin rank. Naruto, Makoto, Kurenai, Guy, and Lars. You 5 have been selected for an A- rank mission. You don't have the option to decline, so don't even ask. He waited for the information to settle in. You will be reporting to General Jiraiya in the camp on the border of Lightning Country. You will depart tomorrow. You are dismissed. With that, the 5 ninja left. And so war starts, Lars thought to himself as he left for home. He would need more than a few things for a long-term mission. That's chapter 4. Hope you like it. Before you ask, why did Hinata have to die? Think about it. Hinata is the heir to the Hyuga clan. If I used someone else, then they could resolve it peacefully, but with her and the loss of his brother, Hiyashi won't accept anything but the head of the rakeage for the murder of his oldest daughter, and council and the Lord of the Land of Fire agrees. And I needed a war arc so Lars could get the hearts needed for the Earth Grudge Fear and improve it. For the Lars Kushina part. You didn't think I would make Kushina AP, did you? And I think it would be best if Lars was at least of age before anything happened. And remember, no love scene until Lars is 16. So not until the war is over and Lars is back home. And as for Mito and Asami, they will tell him, but not until he gets back from Lightning Country. And some important information. He will be in Lightning Country for 6 years. Lars and Naruto had just returned home to find no one there, or so they thought. Naruto looked at the clock. 7:35 p.m. Naruto turned to his little brother. He really didn't know what to say. His brother was only 10 and they weren't very close, and now they were going to be killing people together. Lars looked at him with a glare. What are you looking at, puffball? He forgot that Lars didn't care much for him. Even if they hardly knew each other. It's not that Lars didn't like his brother. The opposite really. He loved his brother, not like his sister and mother but as family. Naruto just reminded him of his last life. He royally fucked up his last life with his stupidity, but what really made him mad was that the Naruto here was not stupid. He was a kami damn genius. Not as good as himself, of course. After all, Lars had 20 or so more years of training. That in Naruto was a bit of a arrogant d-bag. Nothing. I'm going out. Naruto turned and left out the front door. Going to see that Uchiha girl, or get drunk, that was also one thing he didn't like. Naruto was 17 and drank with other Jonin. Uchihas are just by himself, and when he was drunk he was a total ass. But enough about Naruto, Lars had more important things to think about. Like finding Kushina. Lars-kun, Naruto-kun. Is that you? Kushina called from upstairs. Just me, mom. Lars walked up the stairs and into Kushina's room. He didn't bother to knock, he checked the house for other chakras and found none, so he and Kushina were all alone. Once Lars walked into her room he found her in just a towel. You know, sweetie, we haven't took a shower together in almost 2 weeks, and we won't see each other for a long time, so how about one more time before you have to leave? And I know for a fact that everyone will be out of the house until tomorrow morning, Kushina said with a seductive smile. Lars smiled and nodded. He followed her to the bathroom. Looks like it's make-out showing and cuddling. Later that day, after a 6-hour show, Lars and Kushina chose to call it a night. Night, Lars-kun, she said, giving him one more kiss. Night, mom. He fell asleep lying tucked right up against equally Kushina. Next day, Lars and Kushina woke up an hour before Minato was to be home. It wouldn't be too good if Minato found out about his wife and son's little, loving monuments. So Lars had spent the rest of the time getting ready to be deployed. He now stood in a weapons shop. Hey Lars. He turned away from the display to find who would be calling him. He saw some girl he didn't know. Yeah, the girl was now just a few feet away from him. You don't remember me? She asked, pointing to her face. By now Lars was feeling a little uneasy. Should he know who this was? She didn't seem familiar. Brown hair and 2 purple rectangles on her face. Not really ringing any bells. Lars shook his head. Well, I can't really blame you for not remembering. You were just 2 at the time. Well, I'm Rin, one of your father's students. He probably told you about me, you know, like whenever you do like father and son bonding stuff, right? Lars gave her the stone face. Look lady, I don't really talk to my father and he doesn't really pay much attention to me, so. Lars turned back to the weapons. Maybe if I ignore her she'll leave. Oh, that gauntlet looks cool. I used to be a sword master, so why not choose a different weapon? What? He doesn't. Rin just couldn't believe that the man she thought of as a father would ignore his son. Sigh. Look, I know you must think my dad is some kind of living god, but I have news for you. The most time he spent with me was the time I painted the Hokage mountain and he lectured me about how impotent his status is. So if you don't mind, I'm being deployed today until the war with Kumo is over, so I would like to spend that time not talking about my father. Lars picked up the metal glove and went to the checkout, and after paying for it he left. Leaving a stunned Rin. What just happened? At the Namikaze house. Sora's bedroom to be more precise. If you were to walking in you would find a blonde boy being pinned to the bed by a girl with long spiky red hair. Lars was finding out just how skilled Sora was with her tongue. Cammy, how does she turn it like that? He actually felt her tongue wrap around his. After a few minutes she pulled away. Pant, damn pant, how did you even do that? Lars just had to know. Being friends pant with Orochimaru's apprentices has its perks. Sora then smiled and hugged him. She didn't really care that she was laying on top of someone a foot shorter than her, not that Lars minded either. Even though she weighed more than him. They just laid there looking at each other. She started running her fingers through his hair. You're so cute. She smiled, but then a worried look came to her face. Lars caught it right away. I'll be fine. No weak-ass lightning ninja could kill me. Lars didn't know that she could move so fast, cause once he said that she had once again covered his mouth with hers. They kept at this for a little bit until it was time for Lars to leave. Right as he was about to leave, Sora stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. Promise me you'll be back. She had a pleading expression. Lars looked up at her and smiled. It's a promise of a lifetime. At the north entrance. Hello Lars-kun, Makoto greeted with a motherly smile. Lars nodded and returned the smile. He couldn't help but notice her alteration appearance. Of course he didn't expect her to be in the same clothing at home in a war, but it was still strange to see her in ninja attire. She wore a black Jonin vest with the Uchiha symbol, black ninja outfit and some sort of mix of a ninja sandal and heels. Kurenai spoke up. Looks the same as mange anime. Now that everyone is here, I think it's time we departed. Looking to everyone, they all nodded and left for Southern Lightning Country. 2 weeks later. Kami, why is Lightning Country so far away? Naruto asked for the 10th time. He seemed to be getting on Lars's nerves. Sigh. Cause it's past you and Shimo country, and we just got to Shimo, Makoto said in a tired voice. Tired of Naruto's complaining, not the journey itself. And how far is Shimo from Lightning Country? Guy asked, wondering just how much longer he was going to have to jump. Lars was surprised that Guy was not as workout crazy. Cause I'm gonna get there in 3 days no matter what. Ha ha ha. If not, then I'll go the entire way back on my hands, and if I can't do that, Guy continued with a smile. Never mind about him not being workout crazy. Sorry Guy, but it's another week. A sigh was heard from Naruto, Lars, and Kurenai. 1 week later. The team just arrived at the Konoha Ninja base in Lightning Country. When a Anbu jumped down in front of them. Jiraiya-sama asked to see you as soon as you arrived. Please follow me. They nodded and walked behind the masked ninja. Jiraiya's tent. The Anbu stopped outside the tent entrance. Jiraiya-sama, they are here. He then disappeared. A muffled enter was heard, so the 5 of them went in. Jiraiya looked up. Good, you're all here. Now you 4. He pointed to everyone but Lars. Will be some of my generals, he said, leaving the 4 shocked. Now Makoto, he pointed to her. You will in charge of the ambushing and communication squads. Wolf. Just then a Anbu with a wolf mask entered the tent. Take Makoto to her squad. The Anbu nodded and the 2 of them left. Kurenai, you will be leading the Genjutsu and information gathering squads. Cat. Like with Makoto, they left. Guy, you will be in charge of the infantry. Tiger. Same thing happened as the other 2. Naruto, you will be leading the light assault teams. Rabbit. Again a Anbu entered and Naruto left with her. Now for you Lars. Before we continue, I would like to talk to you, Jiraiya asked as he got his first look at Lars in over 3 years. He wore a dark red long-sleeved shirt under his Chunin vest and black pants with black closed-toed shoes, and his Konoha headband around his neck, and a gauntlet that went up to his elbow on his right arm. Jiraiya had to hold a small giggle in at his hair. It was tied up and looked like a yellow crescent moon, but he quickly got serious. I was wondering how you feel about this, he gave Lars a worried look. He was his godson and he knew just how terrible war could be. I don't understand the question. Are you asking how I feel about killing or the war in general? About killing, how do you feel about killing? Jiraiya clarified. It's necessary for the war and to protect the Peo. He was cut off by Jiraiya. No, not what you've been trained to say. Jiraiya crossed his arms. He wants some sort of little kid answer, huh? Well, fine. Quote, comma dot. I'm scared, Lars said with his head down. He even started to cry. Thank Kami, I'm a good actor. Jiraiya had a concerned look and went over to the 10-year-old and hugged him. I know you shouldn't be here. You may be a Chunin and I know you've killed more than your share of people, but no kid should have to go through this, and remember that no matter what, I'll be here for you if you need to talk, he said, smiling at his godson. Lars wiped his tears away and thanked the old Sanin. After Jiraiya had finished the family moment, he went into ninja mode. You of course won't be a general, but your role is important. You will be a member of the heavy assault unit. I've seen the jutsus you've made and I have faith that you will be able to handle it. Any questions? Just one. Who am I working under? Lars hoped that he didn't have to work with a Hyuga. They all seemed to be almost zealot-like. They fought like it was a holy war or something, like Hinata was the most important person in the planet, and that every Kumo ninja was the person that killed her. Jiraiya smiled. You'll be under the command of your old team sensei, Choza Akamichi. He's in the mess hall. You're dismissed. Lars smiled at the news as he left the tent. Ha ha, yes Choza. That guy is awesome. He hadn't seen his old teacher since a few months after becoming a chunin. The man would let Lars try out his new jutsu on him in training and even offer ways to improve it. If Lars was honest with himself, Choza was like a father to him. He didn't care much for his sensei's son. He has way too low confidence. Much lower than the Choji in his dimension. But the thing that Lars really liked about him was that he never asked and he never told anyone about some of the jutsus he made. Like the time I asked him to help with the EGF he did and he didn't even tell Minato. Now thanks to Choza, Lars was sure he could make it with even more hearts. Now all he needed were a few hearts and some animals to test it out. By the time he got out of his musings he was already at the mess hall. He entered it and saw his old sensei right away. He was eating with Inoichi and Shikaku. "Hey sensei." Lars called out to one of the few people he really respected. Choza looked up and smiled. "Lars, about time you got here." He motioned for Lars to take the seat across from him. Lars did and now sat across one of the most powerful people in this camp. "How've ya been, Squirt?" the tall redhead asked as he shoved food into his mouth. The next few hours were spent with the two of them catching up. By the end of the day Lars and Choza were laughing and telling jokes. 1 month later, Lars had yet to be sent on a mission and was getting fidgety. Even Naruto has already gotten to do something, Lars huffed to himself. On the bright side he had time to train. He could sense people's chakra so he could tell if it was a good idea to train or not, and he had an unexpected side effect. His chakra kept growing every time he dispelled his clones. He didn't expect that to happen, but he welcomed it all the same. He once had around Jonin chakra and by the way it was going by the time he was 15 he would be almost have Jinchuriki levels. He hadn't even tried to use the Sage mode. Unlike other techniques it had to be mastered by that body, and he didn't want to turn to stone. Now most people would have some trouble getting over losing one of the most powerful skills but Lars was used to it, and if his version of the EGF worked then he would have no problem dealing with a sage. 1 week later, Lars got up and was out of his tent in a flash. "That's a big chakra headed this way." He made his way to Jiraiya's tent. Without knocking he entered the tent. "Jiraiya, there is a very large chakra signature headed this way." At hearing this all drowsiness left him and he was up. "Lars, inform the generals." With a quick, "Hi," Lars left to go tell Jiraiya's 8 generals. 1 hour later, all of the Konoha soldiers were at the western entrance of the camp. "Sir, we have reports of several hundred Kumo nin headed this way." "What are your orders?" some unnamed Jonin asked. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. "We already have some traps set up but that won't be enough to stop them all." "Shikaku, you're the main strategist, what do you think?" "I would recommend a pincer. We get the enemy from around both sides and enclose the back. Then as they are unable to flee, the heavy assault comes up the middle. By their size it shouldn't be that hard to pull off," Shikaku finished. Jiraiya sighed. It was going to be a bloodbath. He was pretty only one side would suffer casualties. Kumo had no chance of winning this fight. "You heard him, take positions. Light assault on the left. Infantry on the right. Heavy assault in the middle." He got a large amount of highs and nods. "Remember, Naruto, guy, your job is to make sure that your men meet up in the back to black off any escape. Choza and Lars will be in the front of the heavy assault, seeing as they have the jutsus and chakra for just such a fight. I'll be going with Guy's group, and we'll have Kurenai covering us with Genjutsu. Go." They nodded. Choza looked at his former student. "Good luck, Lars." "Thanks, sensei, and good luck to you too." With that they took their positions. Kumo ninja broke from the tree line and ran at the Konoha ninja. Lars made a single shadow clone. Did they even have a strategy? Lars thought to himself as he went though hand seals. Ram horse snake dragon rat ox tiger. Fire release fire dragon flame bullets. He took a deep breath then exhaled a massive stream of fire into the army of Cloud Ninja. Just as he said this his clone finished gathering chakra for its own ninjutsu. Ram. Wind release pressure damage. Like the real one, he took a deep breath but exhaled an enormous ball of compressed wind into the fire, increasing its power greatly. Several other jutsus were used at the same time, killing a few hundred Kumo ninja. After a few minutes they were signaled to stop the ninjutsu assault. If there was a surprise attack later, they would need their ninja with some chakra left over. Just as Shikaku had said, they had blocked any exits and now the heavy assault would move up right through the middle and kill anything that got in their way. As the light and infantry killed their way inward, Lars's eyes widened at recognizing a few of the ninja. Team B, only without Killer B, and a few other ninja teams he had gotten to know during the Fourth Great War. Sorry, but we're enemies now, so I don't have a choice, Lars thought as he used a chakra-reinforced palm strike to break a sword that looked too familiar. Then with the hand that he used to break the sword he delivered a knuckle strike to the red-headed girl's throat. I'm so sorry, Karui-chan. He continued to apologize to everyone he knew that he killed, until there was no one left. At first he had just been playing the kid that didn't want to go to war, but now after having to kill people that had saved his life, he didn't have to act anymore. By the end of the day, Kumo had a 100% loss of the ninja force they sent, while Konoha suffered about 0.001% loss. A guy accidentally overdid it and died of chakra exhaustion. It seemed that it was a few platoons of Genin, Chunin and New Jonin. Kumo had no idea how big the force Konoha had sent. Lars thought he felt a large chakra, but it was just them overusing their chakra on the way over. There were only 600 Kumo ninjas going up against over 2,000 Konoha ones. It was a good battle for Konoha and there would be only a few people not celebrating. Later that night, Jiraiya had been going over some battle plans for Kumo's counter-attack when he heard a knock on the outside of his tent. He had set up a wooden board so he would know when people needed to talk to him. Come in. He looked over to the entrance to find Lars had walked in and was already standing right next to him. Can we talk? Lars was looking down. Sure. He went over to a bench in his large tent. Lars sat next to him. So, what did you want to talk about? He had expected Lars to not take his first massacre very well. Lars spent the night asking questions and getting advice. He had forgotten how wise Jiraiya was. By the end of the night he felt much better and found that he was exhausted. As soon as he lay down he fell asleep. 6 years have passed since Lars had killed Team B, and Konoha's peacemaking team had grown as well. Now over 6,000 ninja, but not everything was good. They had gained and lost several cities and very small provinces, and many good ninja died as well. He had gotten over their deaths rather quickly, once he just got a new outlook. Thinking that they are not really the ones that had saved him. They may have looked like them and had the same chakra and techniques, but they were far from the same. The Team B here would most likely kill him if they had the chance, so he no longer had any problem killing people he once knew. We joined New Jonin Lars as he made his way to the tent of one of his superior. That's a major chakra headed this way, and why are there so many people out? He bumped into the 6th person since exiting his tent. He finally made it to General Makoto's tent. Makoto-san, I need to talk to you. Yes, Thread Boy, Makoto asked playfully. She liked making fun of Lars's title. With fighting so many battles, Lars had gained himself a title. Lars of the Thread, not a very intimidating title, but people who knew how he got the title were rather terrified. He kept a backpack filled with long black thread, and would control them to restrain people and remove vital organs. Since he didn't want to look all stitched up, he would have to wait before he could implant them into his body. She looked over to the now 16-year-old Lars. His appearance had changed greatly over the short span of time. He had on a large black backpack the size of a duffel bag. He also now wore a dark red coat that stopped at his knees, a black shirt with the Uzumaki clan symbol on it. He even got a new gauntlet with a arm guard and iron shoulder plate. But the most noticeable thing was his lack of Konoha symbols, like no headband or flak jacket. Not to mention he now wore metal greaves and boots. Lars was starting to look less and less like a ninja. There is something I feel you need to know. There is something big on its way over here. Large numbers and one massive chakra. Makoto's eyes widened. I have already informed Jiraiya, and he's calling a meeting of all the generals. Lars then disappeared. Not in a swirl of leaves or fire or smoke, just disappeared. Jiraiya's tent. Everyone important was at the meeting. Led Jonins, generals, even the head medic. Alright everyone, Lars has sensed a gigantic chakra coming from Kumogarker. So he will explain what's happening. Everyone turned to Lars. He moved over to the map of Lightning Country and pointed to the northern part of the base. Early this morning I sensed a huge chakra signature coming from the north. I know it's demon chakra so. He was interrupted by one of the generals. And just how do you know what demon chakra feels like? He had a smug look. And Uchiha. Because Uchiha-san, my trainer just so happens to be the container of the Kyuubi and she trained me to see demon chakra. So I think I know the difference. He sent the Uchiha a glare. Now as I was saying, the chakra is most likely the two tails seeing as it's nowhere as powerful as the Kyuubi's. The best plan would be to separate it from the group it's coming with and deal with it that way, so we'll have to have, once again he was interrupted, by the same Uchiha. And why are you the one coming up with the plan? Shouldn't Shikaku-san be making the plan? Shikaku sighed. I have no experience dealing with Jinchuriki, Lars does, so the best option would be for someone who knows what we're up against to be making the plan. And would you stop interrupting, it's troublesome. Lars continued, we'll have to fight it one-on-one if we want to take it down without killing the host. Makoto found that strange. Why not kill the host? It would make things much easier. Now it was Lars who sighed. The host of the two tails is the daughter of the Raikage. If we kill her, we lose a bargaining piece. Just think what the Raikage would give up for his only daughter. If things go well we could end the war with Kumo, and start fighting in places that we should be at. Like Iwa or Suna. They saw his point. No one looked like they were going to ask how he knew that the Raikage's daughter was the container, which was a good thing, seeing as Lars didn't really have an explanation for knowing. But who is going to be fighting it? Guy asked. Whoever does will be in for a major fight. Jiraiya was the one to answer that. That will be me. I'm the only one here with the skill needed for this kind of fight. It wasn't the plan for Jiraiya to fight the two tails but they didn't need to know. Naruto looked a bit confused. Okay but what about the rest of the Kumo forces? Shikaku explained the plan. Earlier before Lars woke up the other. Jiraiya-sensei, the only reasonable choice would be for me to fight her. I know how to counter demon chakra attacks, and what seals to use on a Jinchuriki. Lars did make a point. Jiraiya himself never fought Kushina, but she taught Lars how to do it without killing them. The others would never allow it. Then don't tell them. I could just as easily call her out before the fighting starts. I'll lead the two tails away and you make sure no one interrupts. Again Lars made yet another point. Even if it did seem dangerous. Jiraiya knew that Lars was far above Jonin level, and with his weird threads Jiraiya wasn't sure he would win in a fight against him. After all, Lars was one of those once-in-a-generation geniuses. Alright but if you die I'll find a way to bring you back and kill you myself, that is if Kushina doesn't do it first, Jiraiya only half-joked. He was sure if anything happened to Lars, Kushina would most likely cut Jiraiya's nut off, then use the Edo Tensei to bring back Lars then beat the shit out of him for getting himself killed. Thanks sensei. At the edge of a cliff. They were nowhere near the village but that meant that the surroundings was a bit easier to get around. The only downside was that the village was surrounded by mountains and cliffs. So fighting was difficult, but they would worry about that when they got there, or were at least a bit closer. On the top of a mountain, one of Makoto's scouts was looking through her telescope. There, she finally found what she was looking for. A huge group of Kumo ninja headed this way. She then shot off a firework to signal the rest of the Konoha ninja. Seeing as it was sunset they would be able to see it. Down with Jiraiya and others. A scout was running to General Makoto's tent. Makoto-sama, Scouting Team 4 has just confirmed that there is a large number of Kumo ninja on their way here. Good, inform the others. With a hi, the ninja left to tell everyone else. Let's see just how powerful the daughter of the Raikage is, she said to herself as she looked in the direction of the Kumo ninja force. With Jiraiya and Lars. And then they made me their king and an orgy was had in my honor, Jiraiya finished his story. Lars sat there staring at him. Wow, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You expect me to believe that you met a bunch of people the size of mice and saved their entire island and they made you their king. Then they had a miniature orgy in your honor. Lars looked at him like he was the stupidest thing on the planet. I don't care if you don't be. Jiraiya-sama, there are Kumo ninja on their way here, the scout said with panic evident in his voice. Lars looked over to Jiraiya, to be continued. They then got up and headed for the battle zone. At the mountain, there was a standoff between Kumo and Konoha ninja. Jiraiya looked over to massive cloud ninjas. Hey Lars, you wouldn't happen to know which one is the Two Tails container? Jiraiya asked without taking his eyes of the ninja army. Yeah, the blonde teenage girl in purple. I'll lead her away, you make sure no one follows. He got a nod and Lars jumped off to the right. Makoto's eyes widened at finally putting together what they were talking about. He cleared his throat and yelled. Come on out and play Kitty-chan. Lars-kun won't hurt you much. With that Lars jumped off. He didn't even have to look to let that the girl was following him. Well, that was easy. With Yugito. Did he just say he was Lars? Her commanding officer asked. Yeah, so what? He ran away. Sigh Yugito. Lars is the name of the Yondaime Hokage's son. One of the missions we're supposed to do is kill him. Go after him. He yelled at the little girl. Yugito's eyes widened at hearing this. She heard how he killed 20 Jonin by controlling thread. Hi. She then jumped off after him. Oh no, I'm gonna have to fight him, she thought nervously. Back with Jiraiya. Makoto looked at Jiraiya. He's fighting her by himself. Jiraiya nodded. He'll be fine, so try to focus more on the enemy. Makoto turned back to the Kumo forces and whispered. You better hope he's fine. Back with Lars. He had been jumping for a few minutes now and he felt Yugito right behind him. He looked to find that she was pretty far behind. You're pretty slow for a demon, he called back. He used to be a Jinchuriki, so he knew what buttons to press. That seemed to get to her, as she seemed to speed up. Purple chakra already starting to come off of her. Almost there, Lars had set up a few traps at a clearing a few minutes away. Once he got her there, she was done for. The clearing. Lars landed and jumped away from a fireball that ended up where he was before he jumped. Man. Demons do have bad tempers, Lars said with a smile. Just then Yugito landed. Who are you calling a demon, Moon Boy? Yugito said, trying to sound intimidating. Moon Boy, really? That's the best insult a demon can make. Rag doll, Yarn Boy, but you go with Moon Boy. He said, putting his hands behind his head. You'll pay for that, demon. Comment. She yelled, pointing at him. Lars looked shocked. Demons take payment now, huh? Learn something new every day. Lars put a finger on his chin to look like he was thinking. Die. A stream of blue fire shot out of her mouth at him. To slow demon, he said from behind her. He then kicked the crouching girl in the side before she could turn around, sending her flying into a tree, until she cut right through the tree and landed on her feet, that is, and a cloak of chakra surrounded her in the shape of a cat. Lars crossed his arms. Just like mom and me. So you really are a cat demon? He heard her sniff. His eyes widened as he recognized the scent. Wait, are you crying? He couldn't believe it. She was crying in front of an enemy ninja. Shut up. You Konoha ninja are just like everyone else. You think just cause we have demons in us that we are them. Her lip trembled as she said this. Lars didn't get a good look at Heart first, but now he saw that overestimated her age. How old are you? She was so small, he didn't notice when he kicked her cause she was crouched, but now. What does it matter? You're gonna die, so there's no point in telling you. She then charged at him. Lars sighed and held his hand in the snake. Right before Yugito would have hit him, threads made out of chakra came out of the ground and held her and her chakra back. Then the threads pulled her to the ground where a seal was now viable. She couldn't move and she couldn't use chakra. He saw panic in her eyes. No, please don't. She was tearing up before, now she was crying. Calm down, I'm not going to do anything, but now that you're not going to be killing anyone, how about you tell me your age? I'm 9, Jay, just please don't hurt me. She was full out crying now. Lars stopped moving as things started to come together. What the fuck? 9. And why the fuck is she so terrified about me? Oh no. It made scene now. She was so thin and small, and this terrified by being unable to move. Lars was willing to bet his life that she wasn't trying to trick him. He sighed, and held his hand in the half-snake again, and the threads disappeared, and she curled up into a ball and cried some more. He sat next to her. How often? He didn't need to specify. Why do you care? She said, still not facing him. I'm just a demon anyway, right? She then turned to glare at him. Sigh. I was just saying that to get you to fall into my trap. That's not how I see Jinchuriki at all. Like I'd believe that, she said, curling back into a ball. She didn't care that he was an enemy ninja. Hell, she could tell that he could kill her anyway, facing him or not. My mother is the Kyuubi container, and I love her. He looked over to her. She slowly uncurled and sat up. She looked at him. She could tell when people were lying, and he wasn't. He then hugged her and she cried into his coat. A few hours later, Jiraiya and some other ninja jumped down to where Lars was supposed to be. They found him holding a little girl and looked like he was sleeping sitting up. About time you got here, sensei, Lars said, looking up. Back at camp, Lars was still holding the girl. So how did it go? Lars asked, sitting on his bed. Not looking at Makoto. She'll probably chew my ass off for that. It went fine, not counting all the people we lost because one of our top heavy assault ninjas weren't there. But let's cut the crap. What are you doing holding the Two Tails container? Jiraiya was supposed to capture her, not you. And why is she not in a cage or something? And her chakra isn't even sealed, Makoto asked angrily. Well, I did capture her. Then I found out that the Raikage was letting her get raped on an almost daily basis, and that he doesn't give a rat's ass about her. Oh, and the little fact that she 9 and can barely control the demon cat and looks like she hasn't eaten in days, Lars said in a matter-of-fact tone. Makoto and the other Jonins were shocked. Oh, the poor thing, Makoto said quickly, going into mother mode. So I offered her a safe haven in Konoha and she agreed, Lars said, then leaned back onto his bed. With Yugito on his chest still asleep. So if you don't mind, we'll continue this conversation in the morning. He then repositioned himself with Yugito still on him, and covered himself in her up. Everyone left the tent. They would let the girl sleep, then talk with her. Raikage Tower. Was lots of thing. He was in his opinion a great leader, powerful fighter, the fastest ninja in all of Lightning Country, and not the best of fathers. Okay, he sucked as a father, but that was out of his control. He had better things to do than watch over a little girl. It didn't matter that she had the Two Tails. After all, they were in a war with Mist and now Konoha. Just as he was thinking this, a Cloud Jonin came into the room. Raikage-sama, I have news from the front. Good. I've been needing some good news, smiled. The ninja kept quiet, and held the report. Quote, quote. A smile faded. The Jonin started to sweat. And the news? Well, you said you needed to hear good news, so. Just give me the kami damned report. The ninja handed it to him and left the office quickly. Started to scowl as he read the report. Kumo ninja sent. 1,000. Kumo losses. 798. Estimated enemy ninja. 500. Enemy ninja seen. 1,200–1,500. Estimated enemy ninja killed. 500. Mission to kill Jiraiya of the Sannin, failed. Mission to kill Namikaze Naruto, failed. Mission to kill Namikaze Lars, failed. Mission to stop Konoha forces. Failed. Two Tails status. Mia. A calmly put the report down, before softly pressing the intercom button. Can I help you, sir? The voice of A's assistant, Mabui, came from the speaker in his desk. A took a calming deep breath. Get B here now, he yelled into the speaker on his desk. With B in mist. And yo can't be taken on me cause I'm a killer B, he sang as he stabbed 5 mist ninjas at once, finishing off the squad that had come to kill him. Most unintelligent Mizukage, seating such weak people to attempt to detain me, he said very clearly as pulled the last sword out of one of the dead ninjas and put it back in its sheath. Mind telling me again why can't you talk like that all the time? The great demon ox asked. Because, that would end my persona of being stupid, as Kumo says, a dumb Jinjuriku, is a good Jinjuriku, and people wouldn't take too well to me using words that their small minds couldn't understand. Just then a Kumo Jonin jumped down. Truly incredible B-san. The power of the 8 tails of Kumo never ceases to amaze me. You want something, Fu? He looked over angrily. He didn't like many people in his home village, and this ninja in particular was on the asshole list. Yes, the Raikage has ordered you back. He handed him the scroll. B snatched it out of his hands and went over it quickly. It read, the Jinjuriku of the 2 tails was captured by Konoha forces. After some search we have concluded that it is no longer in Lightning Country. You are to report to the Raikage for reassignment. Signed, the Yondaime Raikage. Why do I have the feeling that she's better off with Konoha than with Kumo? Oh yeah, Konoha loves their Jinjuriku. He had heard about the 9 tails container. She had saved the people and had even stolen the heart of the Hokage, before he was even in the position. So she was rather well liked. He frowned and threw the scroll at the ninja's head. Tell him I'm ain't leavin' until my job be done, son. The ninja smirked at that. He said you'd say that, so he told me to say this. You get your ungrateful ass back here and do what I say or you'll be finding a new place to sleep. Of course he was yelling it, but I don't feel like straining my voice on you. The ninja then jumped away. B's frown increased. He knew that finding a new place to sleep meant he would be marked as a missing nin. Fuck. He then jumped off in the direction of Kumo but stopped. Find a new place to sleep, huh? I think I can do that. He then turned around and headed for Konoha. I'd like to see his face when he finds out that I'm not coming. He grinned at the thought of his brother going berserk at hearing the news. With Lars, Naruto was walking next to his brother as Yugito was blabbing non-stop for the 6th hour since this morning. She had been telling Lars everything that had happened to her in Kumo. Makoto found out that Yugito had a very quick change of personality. Seeing as she's been talking so much since she found out she really did get to go to Konoha. And they would beat me for hours until my uncle came home and killed them. That's why I was so scared when I couldn't move, she finished. Lars let out a sigh of relief. So you weren't raped? She nodded. My uncle would have killed the whole village if that happened, she said smiling. So B is still a good guy, huh? I wonder if I still have to kill him. End. I know that the chapter is short, but I'll be posting the next one soon and this didn't really fit but was important. Chapter 8 is almost done and this was the first beginning, but as I said before, it didn't really fit.